A very good morning to all of you. Welcome back to Ansarkari. So we are taking up important topics from 4th of November newspapers. So this we've already covered the Bandhavgarh elephant deaths. Two forest officials have been suspended for the negligence, and it is believed that fatalities is due to the toxicity, and this is kodo millet problem. And here we see that the important institutional stakeholders for the same is the School of Wildlife Forensic and Health, which is based in Jabalpur, and further investigation is undergoing. So the deputy forest officer of the forest reserves, then we see that long-term plan has been highlighted by the chief minister that a task force would be constituted to make long-term plans for the permanent management of the elephant herds in the state. So permanent measures and steps are crucial. Instead, like this, we've been talking also regarding the air pollution challenge in Delhi NCR and other metropolitan cities also. So best practices for the states for the special management would be studied further. And large elephant states includes Karnataka, Kerala, and Assam. So, on the basis of the spirit of coexistence, so when we're talking about coexistence between wildlife and humans, so it will be studied so that the life of the rest of the people in the buffer area and the core area it is not affected by the elephants. So here we can talk about the man-animal conflict also, and it is not just the wildlife is not just a threat to the humans or to their livelihood because of the destruction of the crop, but again how even the wildlife which is present in that region and the biodiversity which is present can also get affected because of certain practices. And in this case, we have seen that the toxicity because of kodo millet. BRICS summit boost to India-Iran ties. So BRICS Plus also we have been discussing again. This is reflecting how the world order has been changing, how it is reflecting the shift towards multilateralism, the increased again representation of the countries from global south, the developing countries, and working on a level playing field. So there is no veto power here. So recently there was 16th BRICS summit hosted by Russia in Kazan, and few meetings were there. So much potential, particularly we're talking here in the context of India-Iran ties. It's because Iran again is one of the new members who have entered or who have joined BRICS. So bilateral relationship, we still have untapped potential. So India's growing role in world order has been acknowledged and underlined the potential role in de-escalating also the Gaza conflict. But again, India is or we can play one important role, but there again we see that the different parties they need to come to an agreement and common platform to bring this war to an end. So, from the perspective of oil security or energy security, India-Iran relations are important. Then again, when we're talking about the India-Middle East economic corridor, so there also Iran is an important player. We talk about relationships from the perspective of multimodal connectivity with Iran, like we are developing the Chabar port, and also from the perspective of trade security via this region, via this route, because this is considered to be shorter and this would bring in more competitiveness to India's exports, to particularly getting access to the European market and Central Asian markets. So apart from this, again, Iran's entry in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is also being highlighted here. So that's important. So Chabar Port, this we've talked, international north or transport corridor from the perspective of connectivity. And so we see that by the end of 2021, Iran accounted for 24% of the oil reserves of West Asia, 12% of the world. So this is important. And options for closer partnership. So what all areas can be explored? So like India's Kandla and Mumbai ports. So short of access to this, so this can be another area. So Strait of Hormuz. So from the perspective of again map and geography, this region, the Gulf of the Persian Gulf becomes important. So Strait of Hormuz is there, Persian Gulf is there, Chaba port, and then we need to be very like aware about the exact locations. So again, in addition, a railway link of 700 kilometer between Chabar and Zahedan city that is also being fast tracked. So this is again the important the rail route So Delaram Highway is there, then which is the road route. So यहाँ पे mentioned is Zahedan and Zarans in Afghanistan. So it is further connecting for again humanitarian aid also, and overall strengthening our trade relations and specifically untapping or tapping the potential trade in this Central Asian and the West Asian region. So crude oil needs, then the ambitious Iran, India, Oman gas pipeline. So this has been under discussion since 1993. So Iran and Oman, they have agreed to develop two undersea gas pipelines. And also this year in prelims, we had one question again on the basis of one of the gas pipelines itself. So it's important to study the map simultaneously of these different projects. So Iran, Oman, India gas pipeline. Then we have Tapi gas pipeline also there. Also Iran, India, or we can say it not Iran exactly, but Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and Turkmenistan. They're important players to that. So that is also related to the Central Asian region. Then another is the threat of terror groups which are operating from Pakistan, India, Iran. They could conduct joint counterterrorism exercises for the same to combat the threat of terrorism. We can develop intelligence sharing mechanisms for this. And also naval front pay port calls at the Iranian ports and development of logistical facilities in the Persian Gulf. They can prove to be extremely useful for us. So aspects, as far as Indian diplomacy is concerned, is that India and Iran, they can achieve a lot together. India's ability to de-hyphenate the ties and then engage independently with nations that are, again, adversarial to each other is one important area from the perspective of our foreign policy, like be it Iran or Israel, because, again, we see conflict or certain friction between Iran and US, or even Iran and Saudi Arabia also. So recently, as we saw that a deal was brokered between Iran and Saudi Arabia by China. So increasing role of China also can be countered and balanced by strengthening our relationships, and the role of India becomes important there. So assessing India's tuberculosis burden, so we see quarter of global tuberculosis cases, they are reported in India. So the burden is huge, and the number of cases is close to 25 lakhs. So here it is in terms of percentage, 26% of the global TB cases and 26% of global TB deaths in 2023 reported in India. So in this context, we talk about certain reforms which have been recommended by WHO, and in that, the particular, the specific one is the shorter medicinal regimes. So there, like currently we talk about this, so it is again a great like physical also and psychological burden. So in this case, currently we see that the medicines that have to be consumed are close to 14, 15 medicines you have to take every single day, and the duration is close to 6 to 7 months. So following that regime is very like draining. So this new change has been recommended by WHO, which states that the name, I'll just mention the name also. So in that, the number of medicines you'll have to consume would be 4 to 5, and also it will shorten the duration for the consumption. So that is one major step, and India is already working on that. So in this case, the name is BPAL/M. So that is the name of the shorter regimen. And also compared to the earlier regimes, we see the success rate also is higher here. In this case, it is 89% compared to the earlier one was 68%. This is according to the India TV report of 2023. And also this will lead to major savings also. So help in reducing the out-of-pocket expenditure, making healthcare more affordable, so that the scale of the savings would be 40 to 90% savings can be achieved via this shorter regimen, and it will fasten up the access to healthcare also. So when we're talking about universal healthcare, that this becomes important. Then what else is needed? So here we see that more screening, like GIS mapping can be done, targeted multi-disease screening drive can be done here, then identifying more vulnerable population like people in slums and prisons, and then former COVID patients, they would be forming this group. So apart from this, portable X-ray machines, and added to this is the artificial intelligence technology to prevent the diagnostic delays is important. And challenges again, as I stated, physically and psychologically draining extended treatment regimen is there. It leads to unemployment and poverty because of this. So this is also somewhere contributing to increasing poverty. So specifically multidimensional poverty. And it is even the current regimen we see sometimes the time period goes to 24 months of treatment. So that's very, very taxing and draining. And also we, as far as the availability and the collection of data is concerned, we are one of the three countries who have done the national TB prevalence survey. Has been completed since 2019. So if we look at the charts, so chart shows the countries with highest levels of TB burden. India, you can see highest, then followed by Indonesia, China, Philippines. So it is particularly in Asian continent. Then the second chart, estimated number of deaths caused by TB in India. You can see how drastically it has fallen in last decade. It was close to 5,80,000 deaths, and now it is at 3,23,000 deaths. So even in answers also, we can draw such graphs to show our progress and the achievements. And then estimated TB incidence rate per 1 lakh population in India has also been declining. From earlier, it was 250, now it is at close to 200. And also availability of the drugs, because when we're talking about the multi-drug resistant TB, also there also we see that the shorter regimen that has been recommended, even that has higher success rate. So availability of medicines was one challenge that was highlighted also before. So Global Tuberculosis Report 2024 showcases us this data. Paradox of stagnant rural wages. So what is the paradox here? So the buying GDP numbers, they're not reflected in the rural wages. Okay, so we are seeing as far as the rural GDP is concerned, so that is showcasing us a positive sign, but that is not being similarly or proportionately indicated by the growth in the rural wages. So that is the paradox. So it has fallen in real inflation adjusted terms. So when we're talking about the real rural wages, which is when the nominal rural wages are adjusted for inflation, we get the real wages, which showcases us the purchasing power of the people, how that has changed over time. So that is not seen some significant amount of progress. So it is due to the growth becoming less labor intensive, and also more women they are adding to the workforce size. So adding more women to the workforce size is a positive, because it is leading to again their formal participation and contribution to the economic growth. But this is a cause of concern, that the growth becoming less labor intensive, because this is one of the advantages that India enjoys, that we are a labor surplus country. We are focusing upon skill development and upskilling. So how we can like generate more of employment. So wage growth in rural India for men, this is the chart for again the nominal wage and the real wage respectively. So our Indian economy has grown at an average of like annual rate of 4.6% from 2019-20 to 2023-24, and it is estimated to be 7.8% in the last three fiscal years, so April to March alone. So farm sector growth, when we are looking this particularly, so the average was 4.2% and 3.6% for the respective periods. So we need to have a fair idea about that. It is close to 4%. Then Labor Bureau, it is compiling the daily wage rate for the 25 agriculture, non-agricultural occupations. And paradox, this we have seen, the rural wages are stagnant. So we need to focus more upon the labor intensive sector growth, creation of more employment in the non-farm sector, because again, more burden, more pressure on the agriculture sector we are seeing in the form of disguised unemployment is also increasing, specifically after the COVID-19. And still, that is one structural change that we were already working upon, and we were seeing some progress and positive changes. But still, after the COVID-19, we have seen that things have again gone back to the same level or the same state. So rural female labor force participation rate, it has soared between 2018-19, 2023-24. This is one positive we can talk about. We talk about feminization of the agriculture. So there also we are talking about that they face the challenges like there's challenge to the access of the formal credit sources, or like they're not having the formal documents, proper legal documents with them. So these are some challenges that they face as the agricultures. So apart from this, also we have talked about different states like the hilly states, how women are taking up, for example, uh, taking up the cultivation of mushrooms. So that is generating more jobs for other women also. So in a way, it leads to the creation of self-help groups. So that's important. So mitigating factor can be is actually capital intensive growth is seeing, investment led growth is seen, that is good for cement, steel, and such infrastructure creation, developing countries, companies which are mentioned there, like L&T is there, Adani Ports, and all of that. So it is good for the fast moving, or when we're talking about the overall or the broader level of growth rate. But when we go into the micro things, so we need to focus more upon labor intensive and consumption led. How we can focus more upon increasing the disposable income of the households. So that should be the focus area. So when we're talking about cluster-based development, specifically be it rural tourism or like in the manufacturing or the industrial sector also, like the industrial parks are being created. So that can help in driving more of employment also in the rural areas and preventing again the migration pressure at the same time. So different states and UTs, they have announced different schemes. So this is there. So that's also important as a part of again cooperative federalism model. And definitely fiscal policy is coming to their aid. Now here we see Shilp Samagal Mela 2024, celebrating promoting craftsmanship and products. Over 100 artisans and entrepreneurs are participating at Delhi Haat. So this we often talk about. This is one of the ways of again promoting the local craftsmanship and our local heritage and the skills, the crafts that we have. So showcasing the traditional products and silks of the scheduled caste, backward class, notified and nomadic and semi-nomadic tribes, and Safai Mitra artisans. So we can mention specifically the name or the sections who are participating in this. So in a way, it is a step towards again preservation, also inclusivity at the same time, and being vocal for local. So creative expression unleashed when you're talking about the education sector, nearly 10,000 students from class 7 to 12 participate in creative writing competition, showcasing their storytelling talents with on-the-spot topics. So this is, you can see that in a way, how vocational skills are being promoted in a way, and organizing such competitions more periodically, more quickly will be helping us. So even as a part of like they are experiencing it, they're experiencing and learning. So experience was amazing. Italian, the writer to me to write a wonderful story. So on also in a way, extempore skills are being developed. And that is how you can see in these pictures also competitiveness is being promoted. So this becomes an important part or an element of the demographic dividend and skilling. So National Education Policy 2020, that becomes important here. Its effective implementation is important, again, at the part of the school level. So distribution of gift hampers from different like Pilot Pens India Limited. So even that gets promoted. As parents and teachers, how can we help the students develop the creative thinking skills that will benefit them throughout their life? So encouraging more curiosity, having that again homely environment and more discussions and debates on the major areas. Support the creative activities, like obviously every one of us has a certain hobby and different interests, so that should be promoted, like be it drawing or problem solving games, then providing positive reinforcement for the same, and promoting out of the box thinking, create a judge free zone. You shouldn't be judged on the basis of the results that you're getting, and limit the screen time. So this would ultimately help in that. How cyber scams use social engineering and malicious APKs to swindle the users. Social engineering is the keyword. We have been talking about the digital arrest, how it creates or generates fear in the mind of the people. So awareness generation is important. Yesterday also we talked about like cyberboot app was there, or there's again toll free number to report, or it is clearly stated that the officials, they do not call you on a video call, so you need to be aware about this and do not get panicked. So you should rather go for instant reporting the cases. So here it is social engineering, social engineering and malicious APKs. So, an unverified and malicious app downloaded also in an Apple phone can create problems. Cyber criminals enable call forwarding on the user's devices, and the money that we have lost is massive. So here we see that even RBI is talking about implementing or using artificial intelligence in order to get to the main culprit, because that is the main challenge here. We're not able to get to the main culprit here. So malicious APK कैसे work करता है? So it's like only way to download this app on an iOS device is through the official Apple App Store. So apps in the store, they are verified by the Apple, and regularly they are checked for the malicious code and ensure that they are secure. So users, they can download and test the unreleased apps also on the devices by enabling a hidden setting within the iOS. So this features allows the user to test the beta or जो unreleased versions of apps हैं. And so Apple's Swift SDK, it also allows the screen sharing feature and explain, okay, scammers can use the social engineering techniques to enable this setting in the phone and allow people to download such malicious apps, and then they're caught. So again, also here awareness is going to help us. So big tech platforms are being misused by the cyber criminals. So again, the question of regulating the social media platform. So here, like for example, you'll find that the website appears to be genuine and official, but it is not actually. So like loungepass.com, it's a genuine website, allows users to pre-book the airport lounge access at major airports. And here also social engineering tactic was used and to lure her to fake site. So we need to be again aware about the name of the domain also of the official sites. So we have a Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance report on the same cybersecurity and rising incidents of cyber, or these are called the white collar crimes, noted domestic fraud reported by supervising entities in previous financial year totaled 2,500 crore rupees. So using sophisticated technical knowledge coupled with social engineering techniques, rise in data leaks exacerbates this problem. So these are the keywords. So where like you need to be very aware and vigilant about whenever you are clicking any unverified links, downloading new apps, or scanning any QR code. So they should be periodically checked for the computer, the compromised passwords also. You need to change that with time. So amid plans to upgrade the Sukhoi 30 jets, Indian Air Force focusing on AI-based solutions. So we are talking about AI almost everywhere and its application that can aid and help us. So Sukhoi 30s will constitute a bulk of IS fighter strength for the foreseeable future. Sukhoi, these are from again Russia. So this is one update about the upgradation. So Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, in regard to artificial intelligence based engine and the asset maintenance solutions are being provided. So as well as for the spares and inventory optimization. So they would be again, we can say more precise in helping or more automated, or they can help us too in terms of the working efficiency at the same time. Can save our cost also, the fuel cost particularly, if that is one of the things. So the motto of is minimal human intervention, maximum combat potential for the maintenance and the overall of the diverse fleet. So electronic maintenance or management system, for example, when talking about, so it is managed by a hardware tree currently. So hardware tree and the digital twin software to give specific preventive recommendations. So that's how it can help us in the defense. So as far as indigenization is concerned, so there the Defense Acquisition Council has already given preliminary approval for upgradation of 84 Sukhoi 30s. So now we have like 272 contracted and manufactured in India. They are under license from Russia. So again, move towards indigenization. So right now, 78% of the content is indigenous. So Hindustan Aeronautics Limited is another player. DRDO is also an important player. First science result from Aditya L1 ISRO's Sun mission is out. So let's see what do we have here. So scientists developed a visible emission line coronagraph aboard the Aditya L1 predicted on set time of a coronal mass ejection on the sun on July 16. So coronal mass ejection, The data is about this. So it was the VLC. It was developed by the Indian Institute of Astrophysics based in Bengaluru, and this mission was launched in September 2023 by ISRO. So the ejections or the heat or the magnetic storms or the solar flares which are generated from the sun's surface, that is, these are called again the quantities of plasma in violent eruptions. These are called the coronal mass ejections. So it's important to study this again, the illusion that we have regarding why the temperature of sun's atmosphere is more than the temperature of sun's surface, which is called the photosphere, and the atmosphere is called chronosphere. So that is one thing. So studying those coronal mass ejections is important, and that is one of the objectives of the Aditya L1 mission at the same time. So this is the data that we have received. Like knowing the thermodynamic properties of the coronal mass ejections near the sun is very important to understand their source regions on the sun, and VLC is doing precisely that. So even studying more about the dark spots also on the solar surface can help us. So Vivid Mural campaign injects dose of color into the Spiti Valley. So Spiti Valley is there in Himachal Pradesh. Artists, they paint walls of homes, monasteries, and schools to boost tourism, encourage the archery side of the locals. So again, the vocational skill is again being tapped here at the same time. So painting sides you can see along on this wall of a cafe, and so there is this Langza, there's a 900-year-old monastery in Comic. So it's world's highest village connected by a road. Langza is the name of the village. So this is one way of again keeping the environment also clean and promoting more of creativity, more of artistry skills at the same time, which will promote more of tourism because it will create more awareness, and this is an interesting way to do the same. So it is throwing light on the region's vulnerable native species, featuring endangered snow leopards, Himalayan ibexes. So there was again a question regarding the same in prelims, and yaks also. So it will also, amongst the local population also, it will generate that awareness amongst the children living in that local region. So color campaigns by as Noble India is a company by DLX Paints, so being promoted by them. And also this is one of the way of promoting sustainable tourism also, sustainable village tourism. So Thangta art comes from there. India needs to implement labor codes. IMF official. So this we've been talking about that we have already formulated 4 labor codes, but their effective implementation is yet to be, it is yet to take place. So we should cut the import tariffs. Asia Pacific Director Srinivasan, we should cut the import tariffs. So this we need to see, or we study this very carefully or very precisely in a micro manner, that for what category we go ahead with cutting the import tariffs, how it will be impacting our domestic sector's competitiveness. So in this case, India needs to firstly implement the labor codes because that will lead to more ease of doing business, promote more of formalization of the labor force, at the same time promote more of worker security, and their interest and their rights would be protected simultaneously. So that is why it is important to get implemented. And another area is lowering the import tariffs and open services trade, apart from improving the quality of education skilling to create the more like jobs and sustain high growth. So this is what IMF has to say, but India being a developing country, we need to look into this very precisely, that how it will be impacting our domestic sector again, and also the export potential of India at the same time, because it will impact the domestic manufacturing and also the skills, and the might create more of unemployment, might create more of like we might be like it might impact the pace of our skilling at the same time. So demographic dividend and the flexibility that is there. So greater exchange rate flexibility. So in this context, we can also bring in the aspect related to the convertibility of the capital account also. Like current account is completely convertible in India, but there's partial convertibility for the capital account. So that is also showcases how we are doing that in a phased manner, doing that cautiously at the same time. It's important from the perspective of like when you're promoting the free trade, but that has to happen bilaterally. So only India doing that would not help at the global level. So also spoke about the against investment curbs against China, arguing that such restrictions impair the ability to be part of the global supply chain. So but again, we have our own national security concerns here. So by embracing the trade integration, India has a large potential given its exports and the FDI. It can use the opportunity to better integrate with the global supply chains that we are already focusing upon. That is one of the objectives also. So any trade reduction results in 75% probability or retaliation also. So countries like Vietnam, Mexico, they have gained significantly due to restrictions which are imposed on Chinese exports to US and Europe. So this we have seen even as a part of the China plus one strategy also. The like countries like Vietnam, Mexico, they are the major uh benefitors of this. So IMF they release this regional economic outlook for Asia Pacific. So India as GDP growth, this we talked about 2024, 7%, and next year it is 6.5% projection for on the back of strong consumption. So this is also we are being the consumption-led economy. So if we reduce the import tariffs, so that is definitely going to have huge repercussions. And how also we need to study how it will impact our current account deficit at the same time, because it will lead to increase in imports at the same time. So all the things are interconnected and we need to look into how we'll be going ahead with this. Kedarnath portals closed for winter, 15,000 witness the event. So the portals of the Kedarnath temple closed for 6 month winter break, and Gangotri shrine is being closed. So 15,000 devotees gathered for closing the ceremonies were marked by the traditional rituals. Happens every year. It's performed by Indian Army Band. And so there's this Badrinath Kedarnath Temple Committee for the management thing. So source attribute the dip to a prolonged monsoon season, hazardous travel conditions worsened by the landslides and the flash floods in Kedarnath in August, which led to 10 deaths. And more than 16 lakh devotees visited Kedarnath this year, 16 lakh, compared to nearly 19 lakh last year. So there was a dip this year. So even how climate change is impacting the safety of tourism, particularly in the hilly states. New tries with destiny, so largest democracy could not create mass prosperity, and challenge must be met through high productivity firms and factories. So in the very beginning, we talked about that the paradox that we are seeing in the rural areas, that we are seeing growth is happening, but that is not in sync with, or that is not seen proportionately with the increasing rural wages, particularly the real rural wages. So there we're talking about that it is because the more of capital intensive growth and investments are seen, which is again replacing the human or the need for a human labor. So high productivity firms should be promoted, but at the same time, more labor intensive firms, they should be promoted simultaneously. And the fact is also, when we're talking about the manufacturing ecosystem being developed, the cluster based development, the hub and spoke model that is being promoted. So and even we are now focusing upon creation of industrial townships at the same time. So this is one important element that we can say even China. So its growth uh, regarding the industrial townships that they have created. So India's challenge for employed poverty arises from our labor force stock. Only 11% they are in manufacturing, 14% in construction, 45% are in agriculture, 30% in services. So even this is one structural shift that we talk about from the agriculture to the industrial sector, because now we have the major potential of growth there in the manufacturing in the industrial sector. So this case for the strategic use of the tariffs is not export pessimism or subsidizing the incompetence. India's trade to GDP ratio we study in 1970, 1980, 1990 was low at 7%, 14%, 15%. So it is trade to GDP ratio, how much percentage of a GDP is being generated through trade. That is what the numbers are reflecting. So it is only 15% if we have a look at the 1990s figures. So, but that is 50% today. So you can see how it has increased. And small countries like Singapore, Thailand, and Hungary, they have it as 336%, 133%. So that's massive. We are at very, very low level. So the pace of growth has been slow. So capacity generation is very important. And that is why even when we are talking about reduction of the import tariffs, so again, everything boils down to the same thing, that the trade competitiveness of our domestic industries is very important. So capacity creation, or even the usage of more of technology, is important in terms of generating more of productivity and efficiency of the way of working. And also here, another factor would be studying the capital output ratio at the same time. Like how much unit of capital is being used to generate 1 unit of output. So that should be less. The lesser it is, the better for us. And also another factor would be the terms of trade. So terms of trade is the ratio between the price of the exports to the price of the imports. So that also showcases our trade competitiveness. So these are certain things we can study the changes there. And definitely India is also, we are talking about the free trade agreements and the benefits that we are deriving out of that is important, even from the perspective of regional trade. The trade competitiveness or the potential is important. So economics suggest two more suspects for this: infrastructure and skills. So both have shifted from being a dagger in the heart to thorn in the flesh in the recent years. First, usually depressing, the ACER report now suggests we have more kids in the schools, more years of schooling, better learning outcomes than ever. And NEP 2020, from the perspective of, again, education reforms and skilling. So demographic dividend, everything is related to this only. Here we can talk about again how the reforms in the education sector or skilling is being focused. Demographic dividend is important. We have this, the window of demographic dividend for India is up till 2056. So with again increasing burden of the dependent or the aging population or the demographic winters that we see, we need to focus upon leveraging this, the window or the opportunity that we have, because India is one of the few countries globally who have this largest or the longest window of demographic dividend to be used and leveraged. So specialized industries or the sectors, for example, when you talk about Tamil Nadu, so there we see more specialization has been generated in manufacturing of smartphones. So such types of specialized industries and manufacturing units can be promoted in order to boost more of our exports. So strategic use of tariffs can be the way to write in answers also. Instead of we talking about why India is not lowering the tariffs or we should lower the tariffs. So strategically using it. And also the target for the manufacturing sector is increasing the percentage of contribution to the GDP to 25%. So employment here can rise by 18 to 20% of the workers in the next decade. So breaking the cycle, how to reduce the burden of entrance exams on students. So this previously we talked about that instead of completely relying upon the score of only the entrance exams, we should diversify the basis or the factors on the basis of which we are giving the admission. Like the score of the during again your the 12th class score can be a part of it. Then the score in the entrance exam can be part of it. And then again we can have group discussions related to the course that we are trying to enter into, that can be, so weighted average can be created here. So problem areas is the entrance exams are perceived as test of knowledge to determine the student's fate rather than as an opportunity to understand one's condition and position the knowledge. So here again the question arises, how just score of one entrance exam determines the skills or your intelligence. So that's one thing. And again the growth of, on the basis of these only, that if entrance exams they become so centric, and that leads to the pressure or the mental health deterioration of the students also. So this is also generated to the creation of entire coaching industry at the same time. So that would also be balanced out if we reduce the percentage weight for the score of the entrance examinations. So shadow education, growth of the coaching industry, so this may destroy the students creativity also. It is not important that every student is important at academics. So you need to balance both the skills here. And National Crime Records Bureau showcases 1.2% of the 1,70,924 suicides in 2022 were attributed to failure in examinations. Such huge is the number, close to 2 lakhs. So it leads to mental illness, it leads to more vulnerabilities, leads to depression because of this pressure which is created. And also even somewhere parents also then leads to you have to study, all of that. And if you don't get into that college, then there is another kind of pressure that is created on you, that it gives you a feeling, or the society gives you a feeling that you have failed, you've failed in your life. So all of that is there. So well-tailored orientation to prepare the students for higher education is important. From institutions to teachers play important role here. Senior secondary levels to help them identify the courses. So this is regarding the counseling related to which career you will be choosing, because there is less of this thing even during the school times also, like be it 11th or 12th class, you don't have that proper kind of guidance how to choose which area you'll be going ahead with or exploring more and developing your skills in. So full-time career counselors, they should be appointed to advise the students on being realistic in choosing their career options, because here we know about very limited options that we have. तो इंजीनियर हो गए या आप डॉक्टर हो गए, मेजरली तो यही देखने को मिलता है. So stubble burning, the farm fires led by Punjab farm fires, they are at all-time low according to the data. So we need to see कि ये data का sample कितना बड़ा है. उसके basis पे एक तो efficiency और effectiveness की बात की जा सकती है. So despite a drastic reduction in the number of stubble burning incidents so far this year, Punjab tops the list with UP, replaced Haryana in the second spot. So even despite the reduction in the stubble burning, all this is a positive thing which is happening. So according to the Indian Agriculture Research Institute, consortium on the research, agro ecosystem monitoring and modeling for the space, Haryana and Punjab have been placed 1 and 2 respectively on stubble burning list. And so the scientists, the harvest season is in full swing with small delay of 4 to 5 days. So here we see that even despite reduction in the stubble burning cases, still we see that air quality is deteriorating in Delhi. So this is not one of the major factors nahi, of contributing to air pollution in Delhi NCR region. It is one of the factors, but not the major factors. So there we talk about the transportation sector is one of the major sectors. Apart from this, internal, when we're talking about, again, there was one data that the largest contributor to deteriorating air pollution or air quality in Delhi is the indoor pollution. So there we talked about the shift towards more cleaner fuel as a part of the household. That is to be looked into more like specifically. And apart from that, construction activities is another factor which contributes. Then waste disposal or garbage disposal, because burning of the garbage is there. And another is the climate or the nature, because of again falling temperature. So long-term strategies is what we have always talked about here. And the political will for the same. So there's no gate, no lock, no bolt that you can set upon the freedom of my mind. So from the perspective of again individual people, if you're talking about, if something has to be done, nothing can stop you. If so, it is ultimately your mindset which determines your freedom of mind. And freedom of mind can never be, again, as it is stated, no gate, no lock, no bolt, nothing can block you. It will keep, even if you feel that you are being stopped, so still you will be thinking about the same thing. From the perspective of individual, if we're talking about this, now if we look at from the perspective of India as a country, so for example, when we talk about post independence scenario or the state in which we were at after independence, the freedom of mind of our, again, the politicians and the policy makers and even the people or the citizens helped us in achieving what we are today, or the position that we are at today, that we are one of the fastest growing and developing countries in the world. So that is one perspective of looking at it. And apart from this, even looking at the lives of the sports person is another thing that gives you, again, nothing. Even if you like you are having any kind of injury, even like someone is stopping you, or again the social media trolling can be another thing. If you have to do something, you will be so focused upon that the freedom of your mind is related to the things that you enjoy or that you are interested in. So you'll be going forward with that. So even the freedom of mind of जो अभी हम ऊपर बात कर रहे थे of the students deciding their career, that should be promoted. So no gate, no lock, no bolt. तो as a जो pressure की हमने बात करी on students and children, that is one form of the blockage. So Kashmiri women sail past social financial constraints in pursuit of the boat racing dreams. So recently we saw that the first such event was organized by the district administration. So it will be leading to more of women empowerment and participation, and even preserving the traditional culture of boat racing at the same time. So women on the Dal Lake, you can see it will again bring in or promote or encourage more women to come forward. So first ever traditional boat race for women, particularly only for women, has been organized. So it is showcasing how the governance or the stability is it is coming back to Kashmir. So societal pressures होते थे women के ऊपर, again वही patriarchal thinking that you have to stay indoors, you have to do the household work, all of that social boundaries and normalized taking. So it has to be normalized for women to come forward and participate, even like be it sports or as a in the labor force participation or in the formal work. So like women now she aims to participate in international events like Olympics. So they can come forward and contribute to the economy also and make us proud. So kayaking is a discipline. Kayaking is the kind of a boat race. So kayaking is a discipline that requires flexibility because of the sitting position you have to maintain for the longer durations. So it needs muscle power to run the double blades. So sport is tough, needs the support of corporates and the government to promote, just like we promote cricket and hockey. Sharing resources. So fishermen from both the sides of the Park Bay must need to resolve the dispute. So Park Bay, when we're talking about relations with Sri Lanka, so India rightly is the sixth meeting of the India-Sri Lanka Joint Working Group on Fisheries on October 29th. So sharing of resources and equitable benefit sharing can be another thing here. The conservation of biodiversity. Yesterday we talked about again the Nagoya Protocol 2010, which is about again the equitable benefit sharing. So that can be one of the areas that can be explored further here for even from the perspective of the the livelihood security of the fishermen community residing in the coastal areas, promoting more safer fishing activities. And like here we see the complaints regarding destructive bottom trawling by the other side. So other side, that is the Sri Lanka here, were reported. So marine safety or promotion of blue economy can be taken forward, but that has to be in a safer manner. It has to come from both sides equally. So northern fishermen, they should also understand the need to give Tamil Nadu fishermen a reasonable period of transition. So it needs to be flexible, it needs to be adaptable, it needs to be based on bilateral understanding. So India should again push for the deep sea fishing project, which was launched in 2017 for Tamil Nadu's fishermen, apart from promoting alternative forms of fishing. So suitable schemes to help the fishermen, or even like in India, we're talking about so social security benefits of formalization. So there are concerns related to transgressing of this international maritime boundary line by the fishermen of both the countries. So new coastal zone plan of Kerala. So what is the plan? So when we're talking about again, like there was this question regarding the sand as a mineral, so preservation and conservation using that in sustainable manner. So that can be one thing. New coastal zone plan would be from the perspective of promoting sustainable tourism, coastal tourism, and also from the perspective of increased frequency of the disasters, at the same time of rising sea level. So what changes are needed is important, and even from the perspective of construction activities. So Union Ministry of Environment, Forest, Climate Change has approved the coastal zone management plan for of the 10 coastal districts of Kerala. So these are the districts for which it has been approved. So coastal regulation zone notification 2019 permits the coastal districts to take advantage of the relaxed coastal regulation zone rules, initiate development activities, including construction of building towards the seaward side. So ये तो उल्टा हो रहा है इसमें. So here Kerala has a coastline of around 590 kilometers and 10 of its 14 districts are located on the coast of the Arabian Sea. And 2011 census के according population density Kerala at 859 persons per square kilometer. So it is more than double the national average coastal areas में. So इसलिए safety और ज़्यादा important हो जाती है. And new regime will see no development zone बनाया जाएगा area that has to be left untouched. And even if there are again tribal communities, so from the perspective of their safety and the traditional practices, conservation के perspective से भी ये important है. And so no development zone बनाए गए हैं. Around the tidal influenced water bodies reduced to 50 meters from earlier 100 meters from the high tide line in at least 122 local bodies. So even tidal energy की भी जब हम exploitation की बात करते हैं तो वो भी एक aspect हो सकता है. So new regime has also taken away the mandatory buffer zone around the mangrove vegetation located in private holdings. तो अब ये mandatory नहीं होगा of creating buffer zones. So कुछ changes positive and कुछ negative है. Now it depends upon how the society and the people accept and receive them. So mangrove conservation भी important है. तो I think यहाँ पे और ज़्यादा important role होना चाहिए और public consultation. So how it is going to create more benefits? So it will benefit around 10 lakh people according to the estimate. So in construction of new houses and repair existing homes will be relaxed. So ये तो ठीक है, short term के हिसाब से it might appear to be a good step, but long term के perspective से it needs to be studied कि with rising sea levels, how now the people who will be building new houses around these coastal areas, उनका long term survival और जो risk है, vulnerability है, that would be increasing. So DAP crisis lessons, it's time to do with both the price controls and product specific subsidies on the fertilizers. This we're talking about the reforms needed in the fertilizer sector. So the current nationwide shortage of diammonium phosphate, because India is somewhere importing like more than 50% is what we are importing as far the fertilizers is concerned. So simultaneously, we are focusing upon developing our indigenous capabilities for the same, but that is going to take certain time. So first, doing away with both the price controls and product specific subsidies on fertilizers. Also, it is important from the perspective of rationalization of the subsidies. So here, decontrolling the prices is what is needed, and also it will help in crop diversification and crop rotation also, because the fertilizers which enjoy the subsidies are again the bought by the farmers, because that helps in reducing the cost of cultivation to them. So once we have decontrolled prices, now everything would be or the prices for all the options as far as fertilizers is concerned would lead to equal level playing field, because the prices would be market determined. And also there is concerns related to that prices haven't been changed for past 10 years or so. So they are not in sync with the change market dynamics or what changes are actually needed when it comes to the vulnerabilities or challenges arising out of climate change also. So futility of price controls is we are seeing, so how these are not just an anarchonism, but actually it work against the farmers. It is working against the farmers, it is working against the environment and agriculture as a livelihood. So interests are better served by a regime that induces more competition. So competition would drive more fairness, more, we can say, transparency here amongst the suppliers of the fertilizers. So just a murate of potash. So it contains too much of nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium. NPK fertilizers होते हैं. So excess usage of that also leads to leaching into the groundwater. It leads to soil erosion. At the same time, it depletes the productivity of the crop that is being cultivated. Then Assam Meghalaya villages join hands against the sand mining. So again, sand is a minor mineral. under the Mines and Minerals Act. So Assam, Meghalaya villages are joining the hands against sand mining. So this is one way of bringing this illegal activity to an end. So they are known for interstate boundary disputes, but now we see that the villages coming together to fight against the illegal sand mining. So it happens because of again the political nexus also, and aquatic life of the rivers have been affected. If it affects the e-flow of the rivers, it changes the course of the rivers. Riverbanks, they are being eroded, and hundreds of overloaded trucks, they are also transporting sand illegally daily, damaging the roads, also damaging the infrastructure. But when we think about the local economy of such type of region, we see that people are left with no choices. When it comes to again the poor people, they do not have any other employment opportunities, so they end up being participative in this thing. But now we see that lack of water for cultivation हो जाता है, because rivers are heavily impacted. So for example, even the for example, gangetic dolphins habitats in Kulsi and the Morakolohi rivers in the Kamrup district. So gangetic dolphin, it is Schedule 1 में है of the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, classified as endangered. So more threat to the biodiversity and the marine life is another impact. What parties get wrong about agriculture? So एक एस्पेक्ट है यहाँ पे एमएसपी, जो इवन नाउ पीपल आर डिमांडिंग कि इट नीड्स टू बी लीगलाइज्ड, बिकॉज एमएसपी कोई गारंटी नहीं, फॉर्मल गारंटी नहीं है बाय द गवर्नमेंट, और देयर इज नो लॉ. सो दिस इज वन डिमांड. एंड ऑल्सो कुछ स्टेट्स में ऐसे भी देखने को मिलता है कि जो एमएसपी प्राइसेस है, दे आर लोअर देन फ्यू years previous prices. So it is impacting the farmers' income also, leads to again dumping of the produce by the farmers. So for example, Haryana में अगर हम बात करें तो opposition mostly engaged with the farmers, most of whom they are jats, and did not hold enough deliberations with other stakeholders in the agriculture system who belong to different communities. So having again only one perspective of the farmers is also not good. So complex system, India's agriculture system is going through transition. Configuration of agro-food sectors is happening in Haryana, or food processing industries, or even in Western UP, it is seen. It has changed in many ways. So these changes, they began from the Green Revolution during 1966 and were accelerated by liberalization of the Indian economy. There were more like technological advancements and the rapid diffusion of the processed food. आज हम बात करते हैं ड्रोन दीदी सीम की. So use of more technology. Consequently, agriculture operates its complex system also, different areas. So there are multiple elements which are constituting to this entire thing, and it includes different commodities as stakeholders, be practices, be technology. So it is not just even like procuring the seeds and going ahead with the cultivation. बाद में आगे the middleman is there, marketing में challenges आते हैं, आपको sell करने में challenge आते हैं, आप किस price पे sell कर रहे हो, आपको then after post harvest इंश्योरेंस फैसिलिटी जो अब हम देखने को मिल रही है अंडर द प्रधानमंत्री फसल बीमा योजना, या वैल्यू चेन में पार्ट होने का पार्ट रोल होता है, या रेजिलेंस की बात होती है अगेंस्ट द क्लाइमेट चेंज. सो there are multiple factors who are impacting the agriculture and the income security of the farmers. So farmer issues, they are at the center of politics even the developed countries also, though it is not just specific in India. Netherlands में देखने को मिल रहा है, it is the world champion in agriculture and the food processing. So in countries with जो developed countries हैं, या जिनमें again India में still we see agriculture is seen to be subsistence based farming. So in these countries we see that they are focusing upon enhancing the capacity of the involved stakeholders as well as learning amongst them rather than positioning one against the other. Discussions on farmers' welfare should not lead to a binary where the customary farmers versus traders का ऐसा narrative create किया जाए. So narrative create करना again during specifically elections या political parties के हाथ में है. So qualitative changes, firstly, being recognized by the political parties is important. The changes which are happening in agriculture sector, and holding a constructive debate, and even the narrative that is being constructed for the farmers, for the agricultures, for their welfare. This contract farming ko regarding farmers, they have certain kind of apprehension कि there would be an element of force जो फ्रीडम है उनकी वो खत्म हो जाएगी, देयर वुड बी मोर एक्सप्लॉयटेशन बिकॉज ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट फार्मिंग। तो एक इस तरीके की इमेज है उनके माइंड में। Worsening impact of climate change. People across the world are facing record-breaking threats to their well-being, health, survival from the climate change. So this is according to this Lancet countdown on the health and the climate change report. So we have the data here. So this we can take away. 48% of the world's land, they are faced extreme drought conditions, second largest affected area since 1951. 60% lands were affected last year by extreme rainfall, flooding. 151 million people were experiencing food insecurity and heat waves की कल हमने बात करी. Last year, heat exposure put people engaging in the outdoor physical activity at risk. Heat stress है, डिजीज बर्डन इंक्रीज हो रहा है, लेबर प्रोडक्टिविटी इम्पैक्ट हो रही है उसकी वजह से, फूड प्रोडक्टिविटी इम्पैक्ट हो रही है, एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी के ऊपर इम्पैक्ट है, और हमारे सर्वाइवल के ऊपर डेफिनेटली बहुत बड़ा क्वेश्चन है. What the major challenges faced by Indian cities? So the theme for the World Cities Day. So October 31st is observed as the World Cities Days. World urban population has reached estimated 4.7 billion, which is 57% of the world's total population, and it is expected to double by 2050. The theme for this year is Youth Climate Change Makers, catalyzing local action for urban sustainability. So local action की यहाँ बात हो रही है and youth participation as climate change makers. So इसमें again we think about the Greta Thunberg. She is also a youth climate change maker that we can talk about how she is driving that the awareness drive where she's campaigning against जो actions हैं या जो actions नहीं लिए जा रहे वो लिए जाने चाहिए जिन पे बात ही नहीं होती है अभी तक. COP29 आ गया but we do not have any kind of agreement for climate financing. So challenges faced by cities is UN underscores the cities face unprecedented challenges. We know अभी ऊपर हमने challenges ही देखे. एसडीजी कैसे मीट करेंगे? अर्बन सेंटर्स रिमेन प्लेग्ड बाय पॉवर्टी, तो हम यहाँ पे जो सैटेलाइट सिटीज डेवलप हो जाती है, अर्बन स्लम्स डेवलप हो जाते हैं. सो सिम्बायोटिक रिलेशनशिप या सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट या सस्टेनेबल अर्बन प्लानिंग, चाहे डिजाइनिंग की बात हो या एम्प्लॉयमेंट क्रिएशन की बात हो, हाइजीन सैनिटेशन की बात हो, वॉश स्कीम है उसकी बात हो, इनइक्वालिटी होती है, इन्वायरमेंटल डिग्रेडेशन और क्लाइमेट चेंज की वजह से और ज्यादा इनइक्वालिटी जनरेट हो रही है. सो रैपिड अर्बनाइजेशन हो रहा है उसकी वजह से हीट आइलैंड इफेक्ट है वो और ज्यादा एक्सेलरेट हो रहा है. इनएडिक्वेट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बन रहा है, लिमिटेड रिसोर्सेज है, कंपटीशन और ज्यादा हो रहा है, वाटर स्कैसिटी या वाटर स्ट्रेस की हम बात करते हैं. सो ऑल ऑफ दिस इज वन थिंग. एंड सोशल जस्टिस के पर्सपेक्टिव से अगेन जैसे हम हीट वेव की बात करते हैं तो लेबर प्रोडक्टिविटी है, आप पीक आवर्स में बाहर नहीं जा सकते हो, या लिमिटेड एम्प्लॉयमेंट है, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट भी क्रिएट हो रही है, पॉवर्टी और ज्यादा जनरेट हो रही है. सो यहाँ पे एक पॉइंट मेंशन है कि इंडियाज अर्बनाइजेशन ट्रेजेक्टरी डिफर्स फ्रॉम द सिटीज इन ग्लोबल नॉर्थ. कैसे? वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज में अर्बनाइजेशन फॉलोड इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन, ऐसा इंडिया में नहीं हुआ. सो इट क्रिएटेड मोर जॉब्स एंड इट अब्सॉर्ब द रूरल लेबर देयर. देयर अर्बनाइजेशन वाज सस्टेन्ड आल्सो बिकॉज ऑफ द मैसिव इकोनॉमिक ट्रांसफर्स फ्रॉम द कॉलोनीज. सो कॉलोनीज से भी जो इकोनॉमिक एक्सप्लॉयटेशन रिसोर्स ड्रेन जो हुआ कॉलोनीज से उससे भी उनको हेल्प हुई है, या दैट इज ऑल्सो पॉजिटिवली कॉन्ट्रीब्यूटेड टू देम. पर जब हम बात करते हैं फॉर एग्जाम्पल दिस इकोनॉमिस्ट उत्सव पटनायक has highlighted India alone contributed over $45 trillion to England's economy during the colonial rule. So India में urbanization is largely driven by economic distress, resulting in poverty driven urbanization, both rural to urban migration जो हो रहा है या even urban to urban. जैसे अगर हम पर्टिकुलरली गुड़गांव की बात करते हैं तो गुड़गांव में भी ओल्ड गुड़गांव और न्यू गुड़गांव क्रिएट हो रहा है, तो ओल्ड से न्यू की तरफ मूवमेंट हो रही है. सिमिलरली चंडीगढ़ में भी यही हो रहा है, चंडीगढ़ में भी न्यू चंडीगढ़ बन रहा है. तो ये माइग्रेशन डिस्ट्रेस है. सो COVID-19 पैंडेमिक जो strain in urban planning became apparent. Reverse migration trends highlight gaps in infrastructure. सो यहाँ पे भी चैलेंजेस की बात हो रही है इंडिया से पर्टिकुलरली. और widening inequality, exclusive developments are happening. 74th constitutional amendment की अगर हम बात करते हैं which is regarding the municipalities or the urban local bodies, Indian cities they remain controlled by undemocratic bodies. Representatives they rarely control the urban planning. Parastatals and private entities को ये आउटसोर्स कर दिया जाता है, थर्ड पार्टी प्लेयर्स को ज्यादा पावर होती है. Then 12th schedule में सारे subjects mentioned है. For the urban local bodies have been universally transferred to the urban government. Cities receive mere 0.5% of the GDP in the intergovernmental transfer. So financial challenges एक और challenge हमारे लिए need for comprehensive national interventions is needed. Clean up for Chhat. तो Chhat Puja के regarding we see devotees they set your eye for offering prayers, ritual bathing for upcoming Chhat Puja. Delhi Jal Board work is trying to remove this toxic foam. So again जब हम safety की बात करते हैं तो we see that like artificial घाट्स बनाए जा रहे हैं and the things are being organized like उनके लिए जो preparation पहले से ही की जाती है that is important. So it is showcasing the unity in diversity. इंडिया इंक विल हैव टू ब्रेस फॉर इवन लोअर प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी. तो अर्बन स्लो डाउन की बात हो रही है अब ये यहाँ पे मेंशन कर रहा है कि इट इज नॉट जस्ट साइक्लिकल, इससे भी ज्यादा है, इससे इसके पीछे और भी चेंजेस हैं जैसे डीपर स्ट्रक्चरल इश्यूज हैं. इकोनॉमिस्ट दे फील कि ये इश्यूज एग्जिस्ट कर रहे हैं बिहाइंड अर्बन स्लो डाउन. तो बिजनेस साइकिल जो है वो तो एक एस्पेक्ट हो गया, उसको हम बोल रहे हैं यहाँ पे साइक्लिकल है, एक वो फैक्टर है, बट उससे भी ज्यादा जैसे वी सी क्लाइमेट चेंज की वजह से ही हम बोल सकते हैं कि जो इम्पैक्ट हो रहा है ऑन लाइवलीहुड एंड द इनकम दैट इज वन थिंग. एंड like lower profitability क्यों हो रही है because we see that it would have to adapt to the new realities of changing consumption pattern देखने को मिल रहा है. Particularly we are seeing shift away from the traditional to tangible and intangible digital products. So most companies they would find themselves out of price points. सो उस स्पेस पे क्या जो हम बोल रहे हैं जो फर्म्स हैं या फिर जो इवन सर्विस ओरिएंटेड फर्म्स है क्या वो उस स्पेस से चेंज हो पा रही है या वो रिफॉर्म कर पा रहे हैं अपने आप को या वर्किंग स्ट्रक्चर में या जो न्यू प्रोडक्ट्स वो लॉन्च कर रहे हैं. तो इट नीड्स टू बी इन सिंक विद द चेंजिंग कंज्यूमर प्रेफरेंसेस. baseline growth still it remains strong, revives consumption going forward एक ये एस्पेक्ट होने वाला है. So that's how we see that the particularly the consumption pattern has been changing. So aggregate demand is turning weak. Policy transmission to work. कैसे क्या वो कितना इफेक्टिव हो पाएगा जो पॉलिसी ट्रांसमिशन है with the declining or the weakening of the aggregate demand. So cyclical slowdown can deepen if other parts of the global economy is slowing down. Spillover effects उसके ऊपर भी definitely और ज्यादा होंगे. चाहे वो ट्रेड हो, फाइनेंशियल चैनल्स हो, इम्पोर्टेंट कॉन्फिडेंस हो, कंज्यूमर कॉन्फिडेंस हो. So government may table the bill to reform the insurance laws in winter session. Insurance laws, FDI limit expected है, it would be raised to 100%. So key proposals would be apart from this, currently FDI limit 74% है, then allowing composite licensing for life and non-life insurance. एक आप दोनों में simultaneously work कर सकते हो तो उसको composite licensing बोला जाता है. एंड इट में प्रपोज लोअर कैपिटल रिक्वायरमेंट्स फॉर द माइक्रो इंश्योरेंस प्लेयर. जैसे स्मॉल फाइनेंस बैंक है तो सिमिलरली माइक्रो इंश्योरेंस प्लेयर्स को भी हम प्रमोट कर सकते हैं. तो जैसे फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन है तो इंश्योरेंस इंक्लूजन की हम बात कर सकते हैं. फॉर कॉम्पोजिट लाइसेंसिंग मिनिमम कैपिटल थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट जो है दैट वुड बी सेट हायर देन फॉर द सेपरेट लाइसेंसेस फॉर द लाइफ नॉन लाइफ इंश्योरेंस. एंड जो रेगुलेटर है इंश्योरेंस सेक्टर में इंश्योरेंस एक्ट, इंश्योरेंस रेगुलेटरी एंड डेवलपमेंट अथॉरिटी ऑफ इंडिया डू नॉट परमिट कॉम्पोजिट लाइसेंसिंग एज ऑफ नाउ विच वुड अलाउ अ सिंगल एंटिटी टू ऑफर लाइफ इंश्योरेंस है, जनरल इंश्योरेंस है, ऑटोमोबाइल इंश्योरेंस है. तो एक वो कंसर्न है हमारा कि मोनोपोली ना क्रिएट हो जाए. सो इंश्योरेंस अमेंडमेंट एक्ट 2021 प्रीवियसली एफडीआई लिमिट और इंक्रीज की गई थी थ्रू दिस 49 to 74%. एंड प्राइवेट सेक्टर को वी ओपनड अप इन 2000. तो जब वही 1990s के रिफॉर्म्स लेके आए गए टू प्रमोट माइक्रो इंश्योरेंस प्लेज एन इंपॉर्टेंट रोल इन फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन, पॉवर्टी एलिवेशन एंड मोर रेजिलिएंट इकोनॉमी या रेजिलिएंट वर्कफोर्स या वे ऑफ वर्किंग हो सकता है. India gains global market share in the select products. तो कौन से products है? We can have a look at that. Country emerges as second largest exporter of petroleum products. तो firstly, और ये I think ये हो पाया after particularly Russia-Ukraine war क्योंकि जो पेट्रोलियम प्रोडक्ट्स के एक्सपोर्ट डायरेक्टली रशिया से यूरोप में होते थे अब वो रशिया से इंडिया में आए और इंडिया ने जो वैल्यू एडिशन किया उसके बाद पेट्रोलियम प्रोडक्ट्स के जो एक्सपोर्ट हुए वो इंडिया के थ्रू हुए टू यूरोप. तो वो एक रीजन हो सकता है. सो इंडिया सिग्निफिकेंटली एक्सपैंडेड द शेयर इन ग्लोबल ट्रेड ऑफ की मैन्युफैक्चर्ड गुड्स, पेट्रोलियम प्रोडक्ट्स, जेम्स एंड ज्वेलरी, इंसेक्टिसाइड्स, टायर्स एंड इवन द सेमीकंडक्टर्स. 2018 और 2023 के बीच में. So we can say our competitiveness is increasing in these particular sectors. Growth has been driven by India's refining capabilities, increased production देखने को मिला, ability to meet international standards, positioning the country as a reliable supplier of the petroleum products. So most impressive growth has been in the export of precious and semi-precious stones. So हमारा share कितना increase हुआ in gems and jewelry exports from 36%, and it is up from just 2.64%. 2014 में सिर्फ 2.64% शेयर था हमारा ग्लोबल एक्सपोर्ट्स में जेम्स एंड ज्वेलरी. थर्ड लार्जेस्ट एक्सपोर्टर हम इंसेक्टिसाइड्स के हो गए हैं, फंगिसाइड्स एंड रिलेटेड प्रोडक्ट्स. And India's position in the global rubber pneumatic tire market has also improved, up from 13th place to 8th place now. And exports of semiconductors में and photosensitive devices में, that is also increased. So share has increased to 1.4%. So our potential to become key player in the global semiconductor supply chain. इसके अलावा अगेन जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर, इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर में अभी भी हमारा पोटेंशियल है, तो वी कैन इमेजिन द स्केल कि कितने लार्जेस्ट स्केल पे और नंबर ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज में भी अगर हम बात करते हैं तो हम वर्ल्ड के लार्जेस्ट प्लेयर हो सकते हैं. मेकिंग द हेडवे, सो ये लिस्ट अगेन हुई लार्जेस्ट एक्सपोर्टर्स में जहाँ पे हमने कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस अचीव करी है उसके बारे में है. सो हाउ अमेरिकन पिक अप द प्रेसिडेंट, यहाँ पे हर एक एस्पेक्ट की बात है, जैसे प्रेसिडेंशियल कैंडिडेट कैसे चूज किया जाता है, इलेक्टोरल कॉलेज कैसे चूज किया जाता है, प्रेसिडेंट इलेक्टेड कैसे होते हैं. तो कैन जस्ट हैव अ लुक एट दिस, हाउ कैन कैंडिडेट्स लूज डिस्पाइट हैविंग वन मोर वोट्स, उसके बाद भी दे फेल टू विन. So 538 electors, they will vote to choose the president and vice president with 93 from the swing states. Role of swing states की भी हमने बात करी है कि how important it is. क्योंकि जो small margin है, that is the decider of the final result. So it will take up the office. So it is believed कि result would be up by 20 December and today is like 5th November. So voting days. There are 244 million US citizens eligible to vote in the presidential elections. So हम जब हम STEM की बात करते हैं तो STEM alone won't work. यहाँ पे बात हो रही है STEAM की, तो मतलब STEM plus आर्ट्स को भी इतना ही emphasize किया जाना चाहिए. Why do we are promoting only like science, tech, engineering and mathematics? आर्ट्स का भी अपना significance है. वोकेशनल स्किल्स की बात जब हम करते हैं तो इट इज लाइक इट एड्स क्रिएटिविटी, उसमें भी अपना क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग है, कुछ ऐसा इनोवेशन जो आर्ट्स में मिल सकता है और स्टेम से नहीं मिल सकता, हमारे इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस के पर्सपेक्टिव से इंपॉर्टेंट है, या कल्चरल अवेयरनेस की बात होती है, तो ऑल ऑफ दैट एक जो मिक्सचर क्रिएट होगा, आई थिंक वो और ज्यादा better results हमें दे सकता है. तो company like Google, Infosys, they aren't just hiring coders, they're hiring smart people who can think creatively, work freely across disciplines. So you need to be a multitasker. जैसे MBA लिबरल आर्ट्स में बात करते हैं तो कोर्सेज की बात हो रही है कि आप ऑप्शंस भी अवेलेबल है. ऑब्सेशन विद सेफ करियर्स एक इम्पॉर्टेंट सब हेडिंग हो सकती है. सो व्हाई वी आर सो स्टक इन स्टेम सेक्टर ओनली. जो हमने एजुकेशन सेक्टर की भी बात करी थी ऊपर, कि रोल ऑफ पेरेंट्स की वही लिमिटेड ऑप्शंस है, करियर ऑप्शंस है, आपको इसमें से ही चूज करना पड़ता है, या कभी कभी तो आपको चूज भी नहीं करना पड़ता, आपके पेरेंट्स ही चूज कर देते हैं. वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम हाईलाइटेड द स्किल्स ऑफ द फ्यूचर. क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग है तो कोई पर्टिकुलर सेक्टर स्पेसिफिक स्किल्स नहीं है, तो इट इज लाइक वाइड ब्रॉड बेस्ड स्किल्स हैं, वो आपको आर्ट से भी आ सकती है, स्टेम सेक्टर से भी आ सकती है. तो क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग है, इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस है, प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग है, तो ये की लीडरशिप स्किल्स हैं which would be in demand. So missing the master economist. So here we're talking about like 100 years in schemes, the tribute to Alfred Marshall. Economics split into super specialized subfields बहुत ज़्यादा create हो गई हैं. Limited scope for interdisciplinary thinking. One way to explain the absence of master economists is that the world economy does not suffer from similar issues. So obviously the global economy is also रिफॉर्म्ड है. जिस तरीके से वी सी द स्पेशलाइजेशन माइक्रो चीज में ही, अगर जैसे हम बात करते हैं कि बिहेवियरल इकोनॉमिक्स एक बहुत बड़ा एरिया है, तो इसलिए ऐसे बहुत सारे स्पेशलाइज सेक्टर्स हो गए. एनवायरमेंट इकोनॉमिक्स होता है, एंड जो कोर इकोनॉमिक्स होता है दैट इज देयर. मैथमेटिक्स से रिलेटेड ही अगर हम बात करते हैं, इकोनोमेट्रिक्स एक बहुत बड़ा सब्जेक्ट है, स्टैटिस्टिक्स से पर्टिकुलरली बात कर रहे हैं. So Alfred Marshall shaped the marginalist school of economics used in microeconomics. टुडे दैट वी स्टडी, जैसे प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ इकोनॉमिक्स हो गया, टेक्स्ट बुक यूज, जनरेशंस ऑफ इकोनॉमिक्स रिप्लेस बाय पॉल सैमुअल्सन। तो ये थोड़ा इकोनॉमिक ऑप्शनल स्पेसिफिक है, बट वी कैन टॉक अबाउट, वी शुड बी अवेयर अबाउट सर्टेन नेम्स ऑफ द इकोनॉमी। जैसे पिगू बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट इकोनॉमिस्ट है, इक्वली ही एडवर्ड द इकोनॉमिस्ट हु रोट ऑन एक्सटर्नैलिटीज लीड टू मार्केट फेलियर्स। तो एक्सटर्नैलिटीज लीडिंग टू मार्केट फेलियर्स मतलब कि जो एफिशिएंसी है ऑफ वर्किंग ऑफ द इकोनॉमी वो इम्पैक्ट होती है बिकॉज ऑफ एक्सटर्नैलिटीज। और उन एक्सटर्नैलिटीज की वजह से अगर हम जो सोशल ऑप्टिमम लेवल ऑफ इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ अचीव नहीं कर पाते हैं तो उसको बोलते हैं कि मार्केट फेलियर हो रहा है। जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर हम मोनोपोली का एग्जाम्पल लेते हैं, तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल मोनोपोली में जो पावर होती है, दे आर एक्सप्लॉइटिंग दैट इन द सेंस कि वो बाकी मार्केट प्लेयर से हायर प्राइसेस पे गुड सेल करेंगे। बट वो कंज्यूमर का जो कंज्यूमर सरप्लस है या जो कंज्यूमर सेटिस्फैक्शन है या जो उनको जो बेनिफिट मिलना चाहिए, वो उनकी एक्सपेक्टेशन से कम होता है कि उनको, क्योंकि उनको उस प्रोडक्ट के कमोडिटी के लिए हायर प्राइस पे करना पड़ता है। तो डिप्लीशन ऑफ दिस कंज्यूमर सरप्लस, इसको भी हम मार्केट फेलियर कैटेगराइज करते हैं। तो सारे इकोनॉमिस्ट यहाँ मोस्ट प्रोमिनेंट मेंशन है, बट अगेन इंडिया का नाम हम कहीं नहीं देख रहे हैं उसमें। Moving beyond the lip service, so brands enter a new era of transparency under the greenwashing rules. So what does it mean for the eco-friendly organic products? Guidelines introduced की गई against greenwashing. Indian government has made it clear brands will now have to back up their environmental claims with evidence and risk facing severe penalties if they fail to produce the evidence for the same thing. अगर आप कोई चीज बोल रहे हो कि आपने ये इसमें ऐसे कंट्रीब्यूट किया है, ग्रीन वॉशिंग, इन्वायरमेंट सस्टेनेबल है, तो आपको एविडेंस भी प्रोड्यूस करना पड़ेगा। जैसे अगर हम बात करते हैं फॉर एग्जांपल मामा अर्थ एक कंपनी है, तो दे आर प्रोवाइडिंग अस द डिटेल्स रिगार्डिंग कि अगर आप कुछ प्रोडक्ट बाय करते हो तो वो आपके लिए एक ट्री प्लांट करेंगे, तो आपको उस ट्री का लोकेशन एग्जैक्ट सैटेलाइट या गूगल पे आप ओपन करके उसकी लोकेशन देख सकते हो। बट उसमें भी कुछ लिमिटेशंस हैं अपनी, बट एविडेंस प्रोड्यूस करने की बात हो रही है तो एक वो एस्पेक्ट हो सकता है, उसको आप ट्रैक कर सकते हो एंडलेसली। Brands looking to piggyback on the sustainability trend, they are set to face challenges. So here we see recent PwC report survey shows 60% of the Indian consumers now they actively choose the sustainable products. They are willing to pay average of 13% more for sustainably sourced goods. So this is one consumer preference shift majorly जो हो रहा है कि आप 13% और ज्यादा प्राइस देने के लिए भी तैयार हो अगर कोई प्रोडक्ट सस्टेनेबल है। तो इट ऑल्सो शोकेसेस इंक्रीज्ड अंडरस्टैंडिंग अमंग्स द कंज्यूमर्स। एडवर्टाइजिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स काउंसिल की भी बात हो रही है ऑफ इंडिया, फाउंड 79% ऑफ एनवायरमेंटल क्लेम्स दे आर ऑफन एग्जैजरेटेड या मिसलीडिंग है या दे आर फॉल्स। सो एडवर्टाइजिंग प्रैक्टिसेस का भी बहुत यहाँ इंपॉर्टेंट रोल है। हम न्यूज़पेपर में इतनी सारी एड्स देखते हैं रिगार्डिंग द सेम थिंग। स्ट्रिक्ट्स डोंट इंक्लूड एग्जैजरेटिंग एनवायरमेंटल बेनिफिट्स, हाइडिंग द ट्रेड ऑफ्स। फॉर एग्जाम्पल रिसाइकलिंग बट एनर्जी इंटेंसिव होगा प्रोसेस, तो वो कैसे इन्वायरमेंटली सस्टेनेबल हुआ? रिसाइकिल आप करोगे बट उसमें एक्स्ट्रा अमाउंट ऑफ जो एनर्जी जाएगी दैट वुड बी ड्रेनिंग, वो हमारे फॉसिल फ्यूल्स पे और प्रेशर क्रिएट करेगी। हम ऑलरेडी बात करें ग्रीन एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन की। Big Pharma rides the GCC wave. So global capability centers, मे बी सी, सो ग्लोबल कैपेबिलिटी सेंटर्स क्या है? वहां पे आपको हर तरीके की जो बेसिक सर्विस है या जो भी आपकी नीड है पर्टिकुलर इंडस्ट्री के लिए, वो आपको एक जगह एक लोकेशन पे अवेलेबल होगी। और वो टर्म क्या है? ग्लोबल है। ग्लोबल फर्स्टली तो कैपेबिलिटी सेंटर क्रिएट करना, कैपेबिलिटीज क्रिएट करना इन्वेस्टमेंट के थ्रू, विच विल बी ड्राइविंग मोर इन्वेस्टमेंट्स, मोर एम्प्लॉयमेंट क्रिएशन, मोर इट विल हेल्प इन एनहांसिंग द क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ। सो उसकी वजह से और कंजम्पशन स्पेंडिंग होगी। बट यहाँ ग्लोबल टर्म है, तो ग्लोबली यू आर जनरेटिंग दैट कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस टू एक्सपोर्ट द थिंग्स ऑल्सो, यू विल बी एबल टू मीट ग्लोबल स्टैंडर्ड्स। सो उस तरीके से इट इज प्रूविंग टू बी द बेनिफिशियल, या फिर हम SEZs का ये एक नेक्स्ट स्टेप बोल सकते हैं। So they tap India's talent pool to offer better healthcare solution, particularly pharma sector की, क्योंकि हम यहाँ बात कर रहे हैं। So we go by these the point of views. So India's expertise in R&D, data sciences, AI, supply chain essential. तो ये एक एस्पेक्ट हो गया जो GCC का पार्ट होगा। तो स्ट्रेटेजिक रोल्स हो गया, R&D डेवलपमेंट, ट्रांजिशनल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन, बिजनेस प्रोसेस इनोवेशन एक एस्पेक्ट है, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एक एस्पेक्ट है, पैकेजिंग डिजाइनिंग एक एस्पेक्ट है, प्रोडक्शन एंड मीटिंग दो स्टैंडर्ड्स, तो रोल ऑफ CDSU भी यहाँ इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाएगा। एंड इंटीग्रेशन विद द सप्लाई चेन होगा, तो कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस भी होगी। So we've invested over $100 million in the Hyderabad center. So this is by the Bristol. So houses about 2,000 employees. Foundation of a thriving GCC model in India is nation's abundant talent pool, expanding knowledge economy. So यहाँ कुछ keywords भी हम देख सकते हैं इसमें. So India has become the centers for innovation and research, leveraging India's strong scientific talent pool. तो STEM sector की भी बात है यहाँ पे, again arts की भी बात, तो STEAM की भी हम integrate करके बात कर सकते हैं. So calls to cut judicial role in the Arbitration Act amendment. So जुडिशियल रोल कम होना चाहिए ऑब्वियसली, अदरवाइज वो फिर वही कन्वेंशनल तरीके से जस्टिस डिलीवरी की बात हो जाएगी. तो आर्बिट्रेशन एक्ट हम बोलते हैं दिस इज वन द कंपोनेंट ऑफ द ऑल्टरनेटिव डिस्प्यूट रेजोल्यूशन मैकेनिज्म. So reforms in pitched by the government can delay dispute resolution by letting the courts intervene. तो वही बात है कि फिर भी लाइक वो एक ऑल्टरनेटिव नहीं हो पाएगा. इट वुड बी अगेन द कन्वेंशनल थिंग ओनली कि वही प्रोसेस फॉलो किया जाएगा कि the case will go to the court and then it will be finally decided there. So further जो challenge है will delay to the resolution process, and as we say that justice delayed is justice denied. So arbitration act है, it has been amended, and arbitration council of India is also there. Also यहाँ पे हम बात करते हैं establishing India as also international hub for arbitration या aid. जैसे अभी हम बात करते थे Singapore is one of the most competitive one. So 2019 Arbitration Act was amended for the second time. It is good that the gradation has been removed, and ACI recognition dilutes ACI's authorities, causes duplication of work, invites unnecessary judicial intervention would be there, all of which violate the ADR principles also. So speed of justice would be impacted if again there is role of the judiciary. So 1996 का act है, and so specialized tribunals are there. So arbitration awards are just as binding. तो ये हमें पता है the decisions are final and binding. Arbitration के या ADR के जो भी decisions होते हैं, जैसे लोक अदालत की भी हम बात करते हैं. So CJ's legacy or timeline, so his major contributions and what are the major judgments that he's contributed in is firstly the Right to Privacy Act 2017, and that was declared as a fundamental right. Then mining tax recovery जो हमने अभी recently बात करी थी, allowed retrospective recovery of mining taxes from 2005, which is impacting the mining sector's fiscal obligations. Article 370 abrogation, that was also upheld by the Supreme Court, and GST Council recommendations declared GST Council recommendations as advisory, affirming concurrent legislative powers on GST by both Parliament also state legislatures also. So GST Council के recommendations होते, they are advisory not binding. Abortion rights की बात करते, expanding the reproductive rights, affirming women's autonomy in abortion decisions also, irrespective of the marital status. So from the perspective of individual woman as a human, we can say the judgment was delivered. Aadhaar Act 2018 dissented in a landmark judgment declaring the passage of Aadhaar Act as a money bill as unconstitutional and emphasizing the need for legislative transparency. So he dissented in this judgment. The Aadhaar Act, passing it as a money bill was unconstitutional. So this was, we can say, major cases related during his tenure. So that's all for the day. Thank you so much for joining us on Ansarkari. Stay tuned for further details and further discussions in the upcoming sessions.